Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Bipolar Lines, your lifeline for unfiltered, honest conversations about loving someone with bipolar disorder. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Laura, and together we share our experiences with you. Each week we dive into the messy, beautiful truth, some practical skills, and sometimes guests that help us so that we can help you.
Yes. So to our OG listeners and new listeners, if our show speaks to you, please like, subscribe, follow us on whatever platform that you are listening or watching us on. You can also join our Facebook group, Bipolar Lines Pod. It is a private group and a safe space with the option to post anonymously. And if you are an OG listener like we've been talking about, stay tuned to the end for a very exciting announcement coming your way.
Yes. All right. So today we don't really have a topic. Our topic is who we're interviewing. So I'm so happy to welcome Zola on the podcast. Zola follows me. I'm on TikTok, so I kind of hooked up with her there, but she just has so much to offer. She is a therapist herself. She has a husband with bipolar disorder, and she's been through some stuff herself. So I'm excited to interview Zola. Welcome. And Zola, I know you from TikTok, but now I get to talk to you live.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Your background with everything is pretty phenomenal. I'm so glad that you tell your story though, because that's kind of like why I do what I do, because it does like help when we share our stories. It helps other people.
Yeah,
and that's a little bit of backstory. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am originally from Kodiak, Alaska. I went through a lot of trauma, intense trauma in rapid succession throughout like most of my life.
Ooh.
Fell into substance use, had to escape a really violent relationship. And it was just, it was all messy until I hit about 31 years old. And that's when I finally said enough and started just working on myself. I was like, if I continue to go down this road, then all of the people who let me down, all the people who have hurt me, they're going to win. And I'm stubborn, so I couldn't let that happen. So I just started building a life, and I got on a plane when I had about 3 months sober. I had went through a jury trial. I was found guilty. I served some time in jail. I got out. And then I got on a plane with a backpack on my back and $60 in my pocket, landed in Colorado State, staying with my stepsister, whom I hadn't seen or heard from in 15 years. She just randomly reached out to me on Facebook and was like, oh, I just went through a divorce. I have a couch, and she saved my life. Like, wow. No joke. Wow. Well, she helped me save my life. And that's where I started going to meetings, AA and NA meetings, and just kind of started immersing myself in the recovery community. And then that's where I met Adam, who is my bipolar spouse. And, I knew going into it that he had bipolar. However, I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
Gotcha. I really, and he was medicated at the time and doing fairly well. But yeah, I really had no idea what that meant.
Is he bipolar 1 or 2?
1.
Does he have any psychosis features?
At times.
Okay. Yeah. So very
specifically with mania?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. He's really struggled with bipolar since he was young, but nobody really knew what it was. So, he got sent to military school. He ended up, he'd go manic and he'd go crazy, and then he'd start doing drugs. And, he wound up serving, I think, total 8 years in prison.
Oh my gosh.
And at one point it was court ordered by a judge that for him to be released, he had to take his medication. So,
okay.
And he's fine with me sharing all of this. It's just
good.
It's part of my story too,
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been, he and I have been together for coming up on 11 years. And I can think of about 4 major manic episodes that the last one within like the last year that have really challenged my sanity and challenged our relationship. And I will say, Laura, your TikTok really helped keep me grounded and just helped me, even though I'm literally a qualified mental health professional, I have those letters after my name. When you're in it and you're living it, sometimes it's like the crazy making, I start questioning myself. And so I'm really glad to be on this podcast, and I'm glad there's podcasts like this. And I'm so grateful I found your TikTok, because that helped keep me centered and keep me grounded and remember this isn't my husband. This is the disease of bipolar. And so then I was able to support him and get him the help he needs, help him get the help he needs.
Thank you for saying that. I'm so happy that it helped you help him.
Yes. Let me go back to something you said. You are a licensed mental health professional. Tell the people professionally what it is that you do, or like the type of clients that you have.
So I am a jail diversion therapist and coordinator. So
Okay.
I work with people who are either really high risk of getting involved in the criminal justice system, or are involved with the criminal justice system and are high risk for recidivism. So a number of the people I work with, they have to have some sort of mental illness, and a large number of them do struggle with bipolar.
Okay. Wow. What a shout out to your recovery process to now hold this position. That's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah. I've been working in the recidivism reduction field for the last 5 years while I worked on my master's degree. So I recently graduated with a master's in social work. I also have a bachelor's in sociology and criminology, and then I have an associate's of arts with an emphasis in psychology. So
nice.
It all it's just one step after another. This wasn't really what I set out to do. I just kind of fell into it, but I
love that.
Tell me more about you fell into it. Because actually, I was just talking to Brooke about, I don't feel like there's any coincidences. And so I'm interested to know about that.
Well, originally I wanted to be a psychologist, and that's what I started going to school for with my associates. And then I kind of fell in love with sociology on accident, but I liked how it looked at the people as a whole, not necessarily just the individual. It looked at the underlying reasons why society is the way it is, and why people become the way they do, and why people go on to commit crime, and social learning theory, and et cetera, et cetera. I fell in love with it because it helped me make sense of it all with my life, with all the chaos and insanity I've gone through, and all the chaos and insanity that I've seen around me and stuff. And it just made it all make sense. And so when I found the position with the last company I worked at, I stayed with them for a few years and was able to do an internship there and learn a lot and get a lot of certifications and stuff. I kind of stumbled into the job. I was unhappy where I was at, and I saw an ad hey, we're opening this new business, going to build it from the ground up. And so I took on a whim, I applied, and I just had my bachelor's at that point. And they offered me the lowest level position, and I took it. And within a year, I was at the highest level that you could get without underneath management, because I don't want to do management ever.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Because it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to me.
No, it absolutely makes sense to me. I had to take sociology as a general credits too, getting my degree, and I loved that class. And Brooke and I always talk about Brooke, if you don't know, she loves true crime, which is not what I love. You said that too, that you're I cannot watch that stuff. But what I would watch is why women would go on The Bachelor, for example. What type of woman wants to compete with 12 other women for one man that they don't even know? Things like that. But so it's that type of brain, I feel you're itching with me and Brooke, that we both very similar. It makes sense. So you saying maybe it does make sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, so little bit of trauma dump here. When I was a toddler, my mom and dad went through a really messy divorce that winded up with him beating her up and locking me and my siblings in a room and lighting the house on fire and burned it to the ground. And so I was homeless at a very young age because of him. And then my formative years, he was in prison.
Wow.
And then when he got out, my mom did allow him to see us, but he just wasn't a very good dad. So even from a very early age, I've been involved with the criminal justice system. I have been, very high risk with that. And so then getting with my husband I have now, who he was off paper when we got together, but not by very much, who has served a substantial amount of time in the criminal justice system. And I've also served a little bit of time for misdemeanor crimes and stuff. So it was just, I guess I just kind of fell into it because it was comfortable. I don't even know how to.
No, I think that makes so much sense, though. Like, it actually helped you make sense of the world that you grew up in and the things that you were exposed to at such a young age to make. I don't know. I think it's healing. Like, it
Mhm.
helps you understand the trauma you endured by learning from a societal perspective, like why people do the things they do. I think
And it
that
helped a lot with like the guilt and shame that I was suffering and realizing that, oh, this doesn't actually belong to me. You know,
it's
it's
not
not my
yours to
fault that
carry.
people did what they did.
Mm,
And so that was very healing. I think that knowledge was able to help me just really grow as a person and heal.
love that. Truly love that.
Thank you.
What a beautiful story. Not all great and beautiful, but where you are now, like what a beautiful story and tribute to
Yeah,
who you are.
I always like to say, well, yeah, when I was like 2 or 3, my dad locked us in a trailer and burned it down to the ground. And then things got progressively worse until I hit about 30. And then things started getting better.
In my head, I'm like, progressively worse than that. What?
Yes.
What? You know?
You
Yeah.
could be
No,
your
I
own
mean,
Net-
huh?
I said you could be your own Netflix series.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
am writing a book. So
Love that.
stay tuned because I'm not, I don't want to get on here and trauma dump on everybody, but it did really get a lot worse after
Sure.
that for a lot of years. But the cool thing is I've built a really amazing life despite the odds, and I'm happy, and here
I
I am.
love that. Love that for you.
So you mentioned that you, when you met your husband, you knew he was bipolar, but you didn't know what that meant, and he was medicated and obviously probably pretty stable. So you weren't really. Yeah, I think that with bipolar, I had no idea what it was either. My husband was diagnosed after we were married, but even when he got diagnosed, it was still like, this is what he has. Bye. What are we doing? So like, how did it turn up where you knew that this was really serious? At what point in your relationship with him?
So to be honest, when I came into the relationship, I was very ignorant, and I basically thought mental illness was like made up. I had come from, like where there's a big stigma behind it and a big stigma behind medication. And I was like, oh, sure, you're bipolar. It was probably just the drugs because you were on drugs for so long and that can mimic the signs of bipolar and blah, blah, blah. And so in his brain, he used that as an excuse to stop taking his medication.
No.
And he did fairly well for a while, but then it was such a slow progression. Neither of us really realized what was going on. And we've always gotten along great. Like, that's one thing I've always been able to say about my husband is I've never had to doubt whether I'm loved or worthy of love. But he kind of started turning into somebody like he wasn't, like just getting really snippy, and he quit sleeping, and we were fighting all the time, which just was not like us. And thankfully he had a really good therapist that he would see every week, and she recognized what was going on and was like, Adam, this is what's going on, you need to get back on your meds. So that was like the first indication that, okay, this isn't made up. This is something that's real, but we caught it before it got very bad.
Gotcha.
Thankfully, because of his counselor. So I realized, then I started doing research and I started learning and opening up my mind a little bit and learning about what it was. But it's still, when you're in it, sometimes you just start kind of questioning, is this really what's going on? Because they're so good at convincing you, because they believe it themselves, that there's nothing wrong, that there's nothing going on. So that was like the very first time that I had kind of an indication of, oh, okay, like he really does need the help. He needs the medication. He needs the stability. And then, like I said, it's happened about 3 more times since then. But he would kind of play doctor too and go hypomanic sometimes, but wouldn't get bad enough that I'd really notice, And, it's hard. He has spent so much money. Thankfully, he doesn't get like the hypersexual mania, but he gets the obsessive mania where he'll convince himself he needs an $1,800 laptop and he needs these stereos and he has to build this like $3,000 tube amplifier and destroy
like,
our
but
car.
no, you don't. But no, you don't. But also, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, like tore apart our car, putting subwoofers and amplifiers and custom this and that, and and there's no convincing that he doesn't and he'll just, like wear me down until I'm like, fine, just do whatever, just stop, just be quiet.
Do you
Is
guys
that
have,
his
how do you
go-to?
handle, I'm sorry, Brooke, go ahead.
You're good. Is that his go-to for how mania typically presents for him? Would be something car related.
It's more electronics related.
Electronics. Okay, got it.
Yep. So we've got huge TVs, we've got game systems, we've got stereos, we've got speakers. Like that's his thing.
Okay.
Thankfully, he doesn't have unhindered access to money. That's why we're not legally married, because I don't want my credit. I've learned I don't want my credit. I don't want my money. I don't want him to have access to it. And he understands. I mean,
Sure. That's good. I mean, a lot of people don't. So you can tell there's mutual respect there. One random question, because this is how my brain works. Did he grow up without access to electronics, games, toys? Did he grow up essentially poor? No.
No. He grew up like upper middle class. His family lives in Columbine. He wasn't like spoiled rotten, but he did have like Nintendo and Sega and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zola, you said that you came back to you came to Colorado after that state as you came from. I can't think of it.
Alaska.
Yes. I'm like, why am I saying Arkansas? It's not that. Are you still in Colorado?
No, I just moved to La Grande, Oregon.
Okay. Because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in Colorado, and you mentioned Columbine. I'm like, is she still here?
I wish. No, I loved Colorado. I actually moved to Washington to be closer to my kids, just to have their legal guardian move them to South Dakota.
Oh.
And then I was stuck there, and I took a job right on the border in Idaho. So I lived there for a while. And then I just moved here about 4 months ago because I got the jail diversion therapist position. They offered it to me, and they paid for my move and everything.
Awesome.
So that was awesome. And honestly, I just love it here.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I miss Colorado so much because that was like where I learned how to live.
Yeah.
Mm.
Are you
That's
still
huge.
like friend like are you still in contact with your stepsister? Yeah.
Yeah, we talk every day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that only this last manic episode was the big kind of the doozy. And you mentioned that he tell us more about what that looked like, because it's interesting. Even though Brooke and I's husband have the same diagnosis, Jeremy likes to call it they have a different flavor. So I guess I'd adapt that language, because I'm like, they have so many similarities, but they present so differently sometimes. And so, just like you said, he doesn't have the hypersexuality. Well, that's not the case over here. But so you can have the same diagnosis, but different. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it helps people to hear what it looks like for him.
Well, and he also has multiple sclerosis too. So he has a lot of like physical health issues on top of the bipolar. So the mania will set him into this spiral where he'll go overboard with his body, and then his MS kicks in. And it's just a horrible combination. And it makes me fear for his health even. I went to my daughter's high school graduation, and he quit taking his meds and went manic while I was gone.
Oh no.
And so he's calling me constantly over and over, and just putting himself in these stupid situations where I'm having to call people to go rescue him because he can't walk. And one time he tried to start a business. He wanted to start making jewelry, but he can't because he doesn't have the fine motor anyway. He just gets these grandiose ideas and can't logically think about the consequences of his actions. But yeah, this last time it happened while we were like around the time we were starting to move, like springtime, when I was trying to get everything packed and get everything going, and he's just not helping at all because he's so hyper focused on the building this supercomputer.
I don't mean to laugh. It's just like
it's funny now looking back, and even he's like, oh my gosh, like he gets really embarrassed. He has a lot of shame over it because he's like, I don't even play games. Why did I don't even game. I don't even do anything. Like, why did I need this supercomputer? But I needed it. at one point he was even like, yeah, I was just ready to leave. You gave me that ultimatum and I was just going to go with my computer and go. He's like, I don't even know. It's like so stupid. It doesn't make sense. But that was the mania.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I think that's really important for him to recognize that a lot of people that experience mania or depression, like it's hard to make sense of. So like for him to say, I don't know why, but I was ready to do all those things and I needed it. Like it's such a visceral response. It is a natural response. They believe it with every fiber of their being. But for him to recognize that, that's self-awareness from, a stable perspective.
Yeah.
And that can help him in future episodes, in my opinion. If you lack the self-awareness of what your manic episode presents as though, you lack the ability to recognize it early on. But if you are aware of it, there is hope that you can make sense. Like this is different, this is odd, something's not right about this from that beginning stage, not when they've transitioned in, because then all bets are off. But yeah, I think that's huge. That's a huge step for him.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that like his family is very supportive and they understand. So his mom, she's always got my back.
Oh,
so that's
awesome.
Really awesome that she's able to kind of help me rein him in, even if it's just over the phone. And now we have an agreement that I give him his medications. I'm in control of his medications because he'll try to play doctor and stuff. And I remember at one point I was pissed off because I was like, man, I don't want to be doing this. He's a grown-ass adult. He should be able to take his medications and blah, 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 blah. And then I really had to change my perspective and my mindset on he has a disability and I am able to help him by doing this simple task. So I just kind of tried to reframe that because he's agreeing. Yeah, he's agreeing to take his meds and he doesn't have to do that. He's agreeing to let me have contact with his mental health team, which he doesn't have to do that. And so if that's all I have to do to help keep the man I love stable and healthy, then that's actually kind of a small sacrifice.
I feel like there's so many people, and Laura, you probably have had the same, that get to that spot where you just were. And I've been there myself. I don't want to have to do this. I'm not your mom. I don't want to have to do all of these things because you can take your meds. You're a grown-ass man. Yep, been there. But the reality is, when you're able to come to that point where you recognize that this illness takes over, and when it does, they aren't actually capable of making those decisions to take their meds. That's when you have truly gotten to that point where you're like, okay, that's not my person. That's the illness. But that's just a small little... I call it just a golden nugget of information that I see so many people get to, and they tell me this, and we're in that spot. I've been in that spot. Laura, you may or may not have, but like, it's never helped me to tell the person, yeah, but if you do this, it'll make things better. It's like, you really have to figure it out for yourself and identify or separate those two. And then you're like, oh, like you just said, what a small sacrifice to be able to support and help the man I love. It's just a defining point for me that I've seen over the years. I don't know if, Laura, if you've had that same.
Yeah, well, I absolutely have, in terms of, one thing that I want to do with my TikTok that hopefully I'm just doing, and with this podcast, is for people to understand. Zola, I love that you pointed out that you thought that it probably wasn't really real, that it was just due to drugs, or, definitely with Cody, his family, I think, maybe not his dad, but I would say the majority of his family, I think to this day, thinks it was self-induced. And it is really, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Why did he feel compelled to go do, substances? It was probably because he had bipolar disorder, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so anyways, certainly they didn't help, but it wasn't the cause, So the fact that, I think that is a stigma out there, and I think it is still predominant to this day, unfortunately. And so, like, what I want to do with my TikTok is to get across to people that this is a true disability. It's just like you said. It is as disabling as MS is to the body. It is a disability of the brain. And because it manifests in certain, personality characteristics, quote unquote flaws, it manifests as kind of the ugly part of humanity, people think that it's within their realm to control, instead of it actually being a product of a frontal lobe that has been shut off and the illness taking the reins. You know what I mean? So Yeah, I totally get that. And so if you can frame it like you said that you did, you reframed it as like, you know what, this is a disability and I can help him with this. And in the end, that is a small price to pay for the person you love to have them back. So
Yeah. Well, in this last time, it truly almost killed him. The combination of the bipolar and the multiple sclerosis. And I had to go take care of my daughter. She's level 3 autism with a lot of sensory issues and stuff. So I flew to South Dakota to care for her for a couple of weeks. The rest of the family, she's going to be moving in with me soon, but she's living with her grandparents right now. But I went to go stay with her and then go to my daughter's graduation. And so he was left alone for about 3 weeks. And he also has MS, right? And so he neglected his health to the point where when we finally moved here to the house, I thought he was having a stroke.
Oh.
It was with the bipolar. He just went, and didn't listen to his body. And the MS was like, dude, no. I thought he was having a stroke because I would try and talk to him and he wasn't making any sense, but he was still so focused on the computer. But we were just fighting a lot. And then I started talking to him and he was like, buddy, say, Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. He's like, pecka. And at first I was like, wait, are you faking or what? So I ended up taking him to the ER, and his oxygen levels and his sodium levels were dangerously low, and his lung had filled with fluid, and he had to get life flighted to Boise from Oregon. He was in the hospital for a month. He had to get surgeries. He had to do rehab.
Wow.
And this all happened the day before I started my new job.
Wow.
And I couldn't afford to push my start date. And I was freaking out because it was like my second day in Oregon. I had no idea what was going on. Now my husband is in another state. I don't know what's going on. He even coded on the table during his surgery because his mania caused him to neglect himself and focus so hard on this thing and not take care of his MS and not take care of himself. And I wasn't here to help him, which that's not on me.
Right.
Like I can go. I should be able to go take care of my kids and go do things. But it was just like this perfect storm of season change, stress, moving, just everything was this huge thing. And I don't know how I made it through that like month and a half with him gone and just me here with the dogs, no one to help me with them. He made it. He's stubborn, but I just felt so horrible because he's like, they're like not sure if he's even going to live. And I couldn't go, and here I am starting this new job, this very important job, while I myself am in crisis.
Yeah. What do you think you did it? Because people ask us all the time, like, how do you do it? I, for some reason, have this ability to compartmentalize. Like, I can, when I go to work, I can, like, it's still there and I'm still a basket case. And I ask myself too, like, how am I doing this? Like, how am I actually functioning right now? But I can do it. Like, do you find anything that you would say to that question?
I disassociate pretty well. That is one of the nice things about having that complex post-traumatic stress disorder is I can just cut off very well and focus on autopilot. And my autopilot, not to brag, but it's really good. But one thing I did do is I told people what was going on. I told my coworkers and my bosses and stuff. I'm like, hey, it may take me a little bit longer to pick up on stuff. My brain is over here. I can't afford to push out my start date. But I'm here. I'm committed. I'm doing this. And I went to 12-step meetings and I asked for help. It's funny because the day that Adam went to the hospital, I was sitting home at like 5 a.m. and I've been sober. It'll be 12 years, March 5th. And I was like, I want to drink. I do. And I was like, who is up right now that I can call? And the only person I could think of was Rosie O'Donnell in Ireland.
Dude, I saw she commented on one of your posts. I'm like, how does this woman know Rosie McDonald?
You're friends?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, we're friends. And so I texted her. I'm like, hey, I'm in crisis. Can we talk? And so she FaceTimed me and she stayed on the phone with me for 30 minutes and was like, okay, here's what you're going to do. She helped me come up with a plan. She's like, you've been sober too long. You can't do this. You have to go to a meeting, and then you're going to call me when you get back. And she saved my ass. She helped me so much during that time.
Shout out to Rosie O'Donnell. Hell yeah. That's
I just love
fantastic.
her. You know, she originally reached out to me because, you know, she's got Chelsea who struggles with addiction and is going through a lot, and she wanted to just kind of try to understand and see things from her daughter's perspective and learn how to be a better mother, and get that perspective. And so I respect that a lot. And then we also bonded because we both have children with autism too. And so I just have a lot of respect for her, and she really helped me a lot at that moment. And that was the hardest thing to do, was for me to actually reach out for help.
Yeah.
And then I went to a meeting, I shared what was going on. And that's the thing about, you know, support groups, is that they will support you if you ask. And so I think just not isolating, not trying to do all of this on my own and be the strongest person, I think that really did help by sharing the burden, but not making it everyone else's problem.
Yeah, I think what I heard you say are two things that I do too. One is I let people know. People at my work, like, they all know what's going on. That is so helpful. I know a lot of people, probably because of stigma, you know, might hold back on that, but that has been so helpful, being this open. And then number two, for me, it wasn't asking for help, it's accepting it. So, you know, people being like, what can I do? Can I bring you this? And I'd be like, oh no, it's fine, I got it. Why do I say that? Why don't I just say, like, yes, actually? So luckily, you know, my sister, she's brought me food before, even when I said no. She just came over anyways. Like, things like that. Like, oh, that all just goes such a long way. Because like you said, trying to take care of everything, even having your dogs there, it's so, like, if your life was set up for it, let's say you're a single woman working, you would have set up your life to have someone watching the dogs. You would have these plans in place, but you're not. Like, you're married with your husband and you rely on him for certain activities. And so that's the same with me. So when he suddenly gets sick, it's like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do?
Well, and we were here for 3 days in this community. I knew no one.
Right.
So I hadn't even, like, my whole support system was in another state. I hadn't even built my tribe yet. And thankfully now I have, by speaking and by, you know, like, being honest about what's going on, I've actually built a really amazing community in just the few months that I've been here. But that was hard because I have these false belief systems in the back of my head that I shouldn't need help. Needing help means I'm weak, and I should be able to do it all on my own, and blah, 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 all this.
Yeah.
But we're a society, we're a community. We should be helping each other, and
absolutely,
it's okay to ask for help and need help, and it's okay to give help.
Yeah. I do one thing differently than you all, which is, you all said you share with your coworkers what's going on. I do not because of the stigma, not because I want to feel judged. No, I don't care. It's the opposite response from people at work, where they want to ask me 1,000 questions, and or I'm met with like, well, how long are you going to do this?
Ugh.
So I choose not to tell the people at work. I mean, I'll tell a couple of coworkers, but very minimal information, just because I kind of keep my guard up there. Because it makes it worse for me. It makes it worse for me to try to have to justify, to have to explain, to try to, like, I want to educate them. And then I also want to feel protective and get mad that it's 2026. Get your shit together. Do some research. Like, so I don't tell the people that I work with, but I do reach out to, you know, specific people, Laura being one, and talk through it. But one thing that the three of us have in common, which I know others who have successful relationships do, is we disassociate really well. So I don't know if there's a checkbox, Laura, we need to go back to the little Google form and like add the things that we've learned from people who have successful relationships and add disassociate there. But it seems to be a trend. My brain is wired towards patterns and trends. The other trend is that there's some level of trauma in our early childhood to young adult life. It doesn't have to be extensive, but it can be. In order for us to understand, maintain, and have these successful relationships, I think that's like you said, having CPTSD, having that allows us to disassociate and turn it off. Somebody who doesn't have a CPTSD or PTSD diagnosis or has never experienced real trauma can have a really difficult time accepting the reality of the situation and separating the person from the illness. Would you agree?
So, I have
100%.
talked to my therapist about this because I asked her what this amazing super hero strategy I have of compartmentalizing is called in psychological terms. And she was like, "You're disassociating." And I'm like, "So is that a bad thing?" And she's like, "I mean, it's protecting you in the moment." And so she's like, "I don't think I would call it good or bad. I think you're either able to do it or you're not." And I think like my sister and I are two very different personalities. And when I've told her this before, she was like, "There is no way I can disassociate. Like, I wouldn't even know how. Like, I can't. Like, it just viscerally comes into her body and she can't get it out." So I don't think, I do though agree with the patterns, Brooke, and it does make me wonder. You and I have sat on this podcast before and said, I think some partners just aren't built for having someone with bipolar disorder, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with either person, but I think it does take a certain person who's able to maintain a relationship and a healthy one at that with someone like our husbands.
I don't know the recipe, but yes.
Yeah, I know, but it is interesting.
I always say, like, the bar is kind of on the floor because the relationship I had with my ex, the father of my children, but the abuse was physical, sexual, mental, emotional, financial. Like, I was literally stuck for years, and there's still a risk even to this day. I'm going back to Kodiak to speak at I'm a keynote speaker for mental health and law enforcement in the town I went through my active addiction, and there's still an element of danger because he's there. So we're taking precautions to make sure that I'm safe, that I'm never alone. And I think coming from that level of dysfunction and that level of abuse, my tolerance for, dysfunctional things is just very high. Whereas with Adam, my husband now, when he goes manic, I know that that's not him.
Mm-hmm.
But with my ex, that's just who he was. And my ex did try to pretend he had like bare mental issues because like his brother has mental issues. He's schizophrenic, and he saw how much his brother could get away with. And so he would try to pretend like he did, but they actually sent him away. And they're like, "No, you're malingering. Like, this isn't real. You're just,
wow.
Crappy."
That is wild.
And that's not the clinical term, crappy person, but that's essentially what he is.
That's the emotional current term.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's funny because when he and I were together, everyone thought I was the problem.
Of course.
And they thought I was holding him back and blah, blah, blah. And now he's, just living on the streets, addicted to drugs in Alaska. And here I am living my best life. So I think it's kind of clear who was holding who back at that point.
Yeah.
But I digress slightly. I think it's a lot easier for me to manage and, have compassion and stay with someone who has bipolar disorder because I've just been through so much worse that it doesn't seem so bad to me. Like, he's never hit me. He's never hurt me. He's never, and it's kind of sad because, again, it's like the bar is almost on the floor.
Mm-hmm. That does make me want to talk about something that I think a lot of people who follow us or in our Facebook group talk about, is that there's this understanding that that person isn't them. So they can get to that point a lot of times. Like, they've separated their person from the illness. But then it's almost used as an excuse then to keep tolerating abuse. And so, like, well, of course, like, he's just doing this, financially abusing me, emotionally abusing me, maybe if it's not even physical, and I'm just going to take because I know it's the illness. But you mentioned that you gave a quote unquote ultimatum, which I have a feeling was a boundary. Yeah. Brooke and I are trying to explain to people too the difference between boundaries and ultimatums. But so what was that? Because at some point I do think it's a reason, but it's not an excuse to tolerate abuse no matter what when they're in an episode.
Yeah. So the ultimatum was, you have to take your medication and you have to be engaging in psychological help, or I'm not going to be with you. Like, I know you're not responsible for having bipolar. It's not your fault you went manic, or it's not your fault when you spend months in such a depressive episode, you don't even leave the room and everything is on me. But getting treatment and being involved in your treatment, that you are responsible for. And like, I can help him, but I can't do it for him. And so the boundary I set was, you have to get help. Like, I am not going to be with you. Like, you need me a lot more than I need you.
Which is sometimes a hard truth for a lot of people to recognize. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to spin off of what Laura had said, the boundary is something that I have to protect myself, to protect my peace, something that I want. And the ultimatum is something that they must do. So for you, the boundary you set was, for me to be with you, I need you to take your medicine and be in treatment, right? An ultimatum would be, if you don't take your meds, I'm gone. So it's really, in my opinion, how you spin and use those words that can feel like an ultimatum, or it can be presented as a boundary, but two very different things, right? And it sounds like you were kind of doing both. You were setting a boundary, but also giving him an ultimatum, which sometimes happens. I get that.
Actually, I think both you and I have done that, Brooke.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's a deal breaker.
That's having common. It's like, dude, stay in treatment and stay on your meds, or like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah,
there is
that's what I've called a deal breaker. Our marital deal breaker is, if you are not in treatment and you're not taking your meds, I can no longer be married to you. It's an ultimatum, but it's the deal breaker because we both have responsibility in this. So we're both acknowledging that. But yeah.
Right. And that's another thing too, is like, having come from such an abusive relationship in the past, I'm not gonna allow that. I'm not gonna allow myself to be talked down to. I'm not gonna be stolen from. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna put up with any of that ever again. And I've built a life where I don't have to. I'm not reliant on anybody. Like, I have my own, bought this house by myself, and just have built a life where I don't have to, where I have a partner in my life because I want one, not because I need one. And I do love this man. And as long as he is willing to work on himself, I am willing to continue to work on us.
Love that.
But if he's not willing, there's nothing I can do. Right. It's just like with my clients. I can't work harder than you.
Right.
Yep.
I can't do it for you. I can help you. I can be alongside you. I can help you make these plans. I can give you all the therapy. I can help you get on your meds. But I can't do it for you. So if he's not willing to work on himself, like, what can I do? He's got to go. And he understands that, and he knows that. And thankfully his mom too talks some sense into him. She's like, Zola, nobody has ever loved you as much as Zola. Like, what are you doing? Like, enough. And that kind of helped snap him awake. And then once he got some sleep, because he was going on like half-hour sleep for months.
God.
That's bad. That's bad. I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation for a lot of our listeners is really tied to your career, your work, and you've said it a couple times. Like, even still, know that you're a professional in the mental health industry. You're a therapist. You help people with mental illness all the time. Even still, you find yourself doubting and questioning if what you're doing, saying, or thinking is right as a trained individual, right? I think that is so relatable, because to somebody who doesn't have the training that you have, to somebody who doesn't have the experience that Laura and I have, it can feel like a mountain that you could never climb. But to hear from you that you've experienced this, and you've questioned yourself, you've reached out to Laura, you've watched her TikToks, and like, that's kept you grounded. It's relatable. It's one of those where it's like, oh, okay, it's not just me. I'm not the only one feeling like I am crazy and my person is telling me all of these things because they believe they're fine and they're not. Like, I'm actually right. Like, how I'm going about this is right. So do you have any piece of advice from your career or experience world to help people that maybe are in that spot of, I don't know if I'm going crazy or if I'm right?
Don't try to hide the sickness. Don't try to pretend like everything's fine when it's not. because you'll drive yourself crazy. Ask for outside input if you need to. Like, I'm in therapy myself, right? I'm in therapy. I'm a therapist who goes to therapy, which I think all therapists should go to
Totally
therapy.
agree.
And I have a lot of friends and I have a lot of support and family. I've built myself a little tribe that I can talk to that reassure me, that are like able to keep me sane. But in the past, when I had lived a very dysfunctional life, I was ashamed. I was full of shame. And so I wouldn't talk to anybody and I would isolate, and nobody ever knew that there was a problem. So, I mean, I try not to make my problems everyone else's problem, but also I don't try to take the world on myself. So when I was feeling like crazy and he's picking out every little thing wrong I've ever done and stuff, I was able to reach out. I was able to watch your videos, Laura. There's another girl. And then I was also able to reach out and talk to some friends and his family and people to get that like validation, I guess, that, okay, this isn't him. This is, you know, I'm not this evil person who's keeping him from living his dreams of having a multi-$1,000 computer system that he's never used. You know,
Yep.
so, you know, it's just easy to start doubting yourself in that moment. So just don't try to take on the world alone.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for help.
One thing that's great advice, and I completely agree. And one thing a therapist early on had told me that it blew my mind at the time, which now, I mean, I was so innocent, like just, I was trying to explain to her, this is during his first manic episode, like, you know, things that had taken place. And I'm just like trying to find my ownership in it because, you know, it's like, well, it takes two to tango. I must have been doing something wrong as well. Like I have to own my piece of this, you know, cause they'll do that to you. Like, it'll be like it, cause they don't think it's their fault. They know their life is not going well, but because they don't think it's them, they project it onto whoever is the closest to them. And you don't realize they're doing that. And I remember my therapist was like, what if it really is just all his fault? And I was like, how could you say that? That's never true. And she's like, why not? She's like, it all stems from his episode. So it's not his fault in the sense that we're trying to put blame on him as a person, but that it is the illness's fault. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. And the reactions that you were giving were perfectly reasonable considering what you knew at the time. Anyways, that was really freeing because by me trying to think that I had an ownership, like I remember her being like, you can't fight with an irrational person. Like you can't have a conversation, and that's what you're trying to do. And then you get triggered and then you start fighting and then you take ownership of the fight while he continues to not take ownership of the fight and uses it against me then to be like, see, I was right. You're the one who apologized. Anyway, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I just thought that in my head when you were saying that too, because I think that's another thing that makes you crazy.
It's a vicious cycle. And that, my friends, is why we say, do not engage. If you don't engage, you're not going to apologize. You're not going to give or add fuel to the fire. You're not giving them something else to latch onto. And I know this is the hardest part. Yeah. It is so hard because, you know, you have people that want to justify, defend, or, you know, basically clear themselves of any wrongdoing, and also make sense of it because they're like, what is happening? This makes no sense, right? But if you recognize that by doing any of those three things, you're actually fighting with yourself. Because all you're doing is giving them ammo to come back and argue with you about it. Like you're actually arguing with yourself. You're just telling them what to do and how to say it, right? So don't do that. Just don't engage. And then, you look for the support. You look for phone a friend. You can post in our Facebook group. You can reach out, go to therapy. I've said this from day one, always get a therapist. Everybody needs a therapist. Therapists need therapists. So if I could be like Oprah, I'd be like, you get a therapist, you get a therapist. Everybody gets a therapist.
Yes.
Please. And it's okay to find one that works for you, right? It's okay. But anyway, adding fuel to the fire, it's hard to recognize when you're doing that and when to stop. But if people would just truly recognize what it means to not engage with the illness, will help you and save you so much time, heartache, headaches, physical aches, physical manifestations by just stopping, right? Just stop.
Zola, what are you like though? What are you like though? Because Brooke, I think Brooke is better at this than me. Like, because even though I know not to engage, there's always a piece of me that's kind of like, but like I just have to get it back. And like, and I know it's not gonna help. I know this, but sometimes it's really hard to control myself. Where would you put you on the spectrum of you can completely maintain composure all the time to yes, I always have to get my dig in?
I would say like 80% of the time I do well because I understand no amount of logic is
Right.
going to click because he'll find a way around it.
Mhm.
I was very disappointed in myself during this last bout of mania. I got so angry at him because I came back and like nothing was done. We were supposed to be driving to the new house and I had to call a friend and pay her a whole bunch of money to clean out the house. And
No.
I went off. And that was the first time in our 11-year marriage where I have broken down and just, I called him every name in the book.
No.
And that's not the relationship we had. And I felt horrible. But at that moment in time, it was just, I broke.
Yeah.
Because we all have our breaking points.
Yeah.
And at one point, you know, I was engaging and I was he's very good at the crazy making. So I started recording myself and the conversation we were having. And then I played it back and I'm like, okay, wait, that's what happened. Okay, I'm not crazy. It really is him because I needed that reassurance. I didn't like record it to use it against him or anything. Yeah. I recorded it because I needed it for my sanity to be like, okay, this is really how things are going.
Let me add something to that. I would guarantee you if we took a poll to all of our listeners or people in the Facebook group, that at least 75% of them would admit to doing that very thing of recording it to figure out, am I crazy or did he just, I swear that's, yes, the gaslighting is unreal. So I totally get it. And I've been there myself. So yeah, I mean, I think that's super relatable because a lot of people are like, oh shit, yeah, they do it too. Yeah, okay, I'm not crazy. Like I can go delete those recordings because I know I wasn't crazy. But yeah, it feels like you could weaponize that recording, and I think that's why it feels gross and why we feel like we need to justify why we recorded them. But the reality is we could get so trapped in our own minds and our own environment that is chaos and confusing that like we have to find a way out. And that way out can sometimes be recording. To listen back and to go, okay, what I said happened is what happened.
Yeah.
My brain is okay. It's clear, they're not.
I will say though, my experience with Adam has helped me a lot in my career. Because I've got the CPTSD, I've got the ADHD and the, very long history of substance use disorder, among whatever else. But things like bipolar disorder, I can't relate on certain levels, but he has given me so much perspective and empathy that I'm now able to use not just to deal with him, but to deal with my clients and patients that I see, and help them separate the disease and those actions from who they actually are as a person. And I also can now recognize kind of hey, you're acting a little squirrely, you taking your meds, and call them out. It's funny because I can see it when Adam's starting to go manic because his pupils get bigger. It's almost like somebody who's on meth because of the dopamine, right? Yep. And I just know, I'm like, I can tell instantly, like, oh, you didn't take your olanzapine this morning, did you? And I just can tell now because we've been together for so long.
Yeah.
But it scares me. Like I live in fear of him having a manic episode. So I just, I do, it's not on me. It's not my responsibility, but I do everything I can to help support him and make sure that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But again, it's if he's willing to work on himself, I'm willing to work on us. If he's willing to help himself, I'm willing to help him. And thankfully, he's never just given up.
I mean, that's the thing is that sometimes I feel like if we as partners don't set that boundary that has that attached threat, honestly, of the ultimatum of the consequence. I mean, Cody will just flat out say, if Laura didn't do that, I don't know if I'd be alive. Like she is the reason that like I was willing to do this and continue to do this and his kids, of course, he'll say Laura and the kids. but ultimately it's me to put in that boundary. It's not my kids. So yeah, it's so ironic that it can end up actually helping them, even though it seems like a very hurtful thing to do to them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of it too, I had to find my own self-worth too. So a lot of that is realizing like, I love him and I support him, but I deserve to be treated with respect, and I deserve to be treated with love, and I deserve to have comfort in my own home. And if he is not willing to treat his mental illness, then it's not his fault. He has it. It's not. But if he's not willing to even try,
exactly,
I deserve better.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah. And thankfully, when he does start getting, too far out there, he trusts me typically when I'm like, it's time to go. It's time to go to the doctor. It's time to call the doctor. Like, he gets really paranoid and angry, but he does trust me enough that he'll talk to the doctor with me. And
that's good.
I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. Not a lot of people are willing or able or, can trust. So that's awesome.
It is hard, though, I will say, as like, I'm a CADC and a QMHP, and I'm actually working on getting my CSWA, Clinical Social Work Associate license. And it's very hard sometimes to leave work at work and be wife and not mental health provider to him because that's not my job. I'm his wife. I am not his therapist. And those lines do sometimes get blurred, and it's really hard. Or I'll go to his appointments with him and I'll find myself kind of taking over, and I'm like, I need to step back. I'm more of an observer. I'm support. I am not in charge. And that's very hard because my clinical brain just kind of turns on, and
I don't have all of those letters. Same. I do the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Brooke definitely does that, and she doesn't even have all those. But yeah, I think we all have some sort of like hypervigilance too.
Yes.
If you've gone through a manic episode, as much as Cody hates it, he said he hates bipolar. The number one reason he hates having bipolar is not because of what it does to him. He says it's because of what it does to everyone around him who he loves, and he can't prevent that trauma. He can try, like you said, take your meds, be in treatment, like do all the things. But at the end of the day, we do still have trauma from his manic episode. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, I think we all kind of have this level of hypervigilance that you have, Zola. I think a lot of people out there would relate to that.
Yeah. I have the trauma from manic and depressive episodes. My husband, it's a weird dynamic. Not weird, but it's just his. Like, he's not safe when he's manic, but he is at an even greater risk when he's depressed. So yeah, I know you had mentioned that he's been, staying in the bedroom, won't get out, won't do anything for himself, etc. Yeah. And it's a different kind of hell, frankly, from mania. It just is. But the risk of loss of life for us is significantly higher when he is depressed and he's had multiple attempts. So the trauma is real, y'all. But I read something, and I want to share this with you. And Laura, I think we need to find our way to work this into our regular episodes, because it is so, to me, it's so like enlightening. Intent doesn't erase impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we truly think about the things that they experience and we experience during those episodes, we know when we separate our people from the illness that they did not intend to do those things. But our reality is that doesn't erase the impact on us.
Right.
And I think we spend a lot of time teaching people as much as we can behind a camera or coming out of your speakers in your car or wherever you are listening to us, that they didn't mean to do these things to you. And once you realize that, it's easier to separate the person from the illness. But I don't think we spend enough time talking about that it doesn't erase the impact and that there are things that you have to do to heal yourself, because it's not fair to the people that are diagnosed. And I'm saying this as a non-diagnosed person with bipolar disorder. I have ADHD. I cannot use my ADHD tendencies, my missteps, my overstimulation. I cannot use that against everybody forever, right? Like, I can't just say, oh, well, it's because I have ADHD. That's not an excuse. And Laura, you've talked about that too. It's not an excuse. If we recognize that and they separate, oh, well, I understand she's overstimulated, so things are happening right now. I get that. The impact of my overstimulation is not on me to heal. It's on the person that experienced the impact. You have to choose to heal. It's not their problem to solve for you, like you were just talking about, but in a different perspective. You can't solve the problem for him. You can't manage the illness for him, but you can be there to support and help. The same thing is true for us as caregivers, as loved ones. It is our job to heal the traumas that we've experienced from the impact, obviously with help and understanding and empathy from them. But we have to take that lead role, just like we're asking them to take the lead role in managing their illness. We have to do the same.
Yeah, full agree.
So good. Well, Zola, I could talk to you. I feel like I could go on another 30 minutes and we're already at an hour. So we should probably cut it. But truly, I didn't know really a lot of your story. So it's really inspirational. Like, I feel proud of you and I don't even know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really amazing everything that you've overcome and like just the strength that you continue to have and display. And like, I love people. My favorite people are what I call turn pain into a purpose, which you have done. You took that pain and you transmuted it, and now it is a purpose, and you're using it to help others. It's just incredible. So I'm so glad you agreed to come on and do this, and it was so good to talk to you.
No,
And
thank you for having
you. You have social media handles everywhere. Where can people find you?
I am Zola in Recovery across all of my platforms. That's TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. I think the only thing I don't have is Facebook.
Okay.
I have like my personal Facebook, but I don't have like my brand Facebook. But yeah, I'm Zola in Recovery across the board. And I post a lot of random stuff, but I also post a lot of stuff about healing and, substance use and just recovery in general, because recovery is such a broad spectrum, right?
Sure.
We're always working on ourselves. We're always trying to become a better version of ourselves, right? So you'll never hear me say, oh, I'm recovered, because I'm always striving to be better than I was. I'm always trying to continue to overcome everything. So,
well, I can't wait to read your book.
Yes.
I know you're going to get it done.
Yeah, Rosie said she'll write my foreword.
Wow.
So I'm like,
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was great to meet you. I've enjoyed speaking with you for sure. Hopefully we'll probably have you back on in the future, because your perspective can help so many people and us as well. So really appreciate you.
Anytime. Thank you guys for having me. It was so great to meet you in person, Laura, and to meet you, Brooke, and chat with you guys.
Love it.
Likewise. Okay, so yes, if you are looking for more support, thank you for following the podcast. So you can find us across all podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube if you want to watch us. We do have our Facebook group. It's growing by the day. It is very, very active. If you're looking for almost immediate help from other people in your exact situation, wouldn't you say, Brooke?
Absolutely.
It's very responsive, which is really nice to see if Brooke and I can't get to it right away.
Yes.
We do have our website. So right now it's just a free one, but bipolarlinespod.wordpress.com. You can subscribe and make sure you don't miss out on any content that we have coming. And we have a brand new thing that we're launching February 1st. Drum roll.
Yes.
We are going to be offering a Behind the Lines Line Holders Club. That'll be very exciting. It's going to feature bonus content aside from just our bi-weekly podcast, and more of like an insider's view of our lives.
Yeah. And it's going to be what we want it to be and what you all want it to be.
Yeah, and it can change and evolve, and exactly.
Yep. Exactly. It's going to be good. We'll post more information about that, but again, it's not going to be available till February 1st for a fee of $4.99 a month. It's another way for you all to support us, help our podcast platform grow and reach more people that we need to, be in front of and talk with. So super excited about that. We did mention the Facebook group, but it's Bipolar Lines Pod. It is a private Facebook group, so you can post anonymously or not. It's completely up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. We've had a lot of listeners ask for a way to support us and the podcast. So there is a link to buy me a coffee /Bipolar Lines within the Facebook group under the featured comments. But again, it's just buy me a coffee /Bipolar Lines. If you'd like to go on there and tip us, you can absolutely do that. And we truly appreciate every bit of your support.
You can find me on TikTok at the BP Spouse and Brooke break _ the stigma.
Yes.
And we do answer DMs when we can.
Yes. Yeah. And like we said, episodes drop every other week on Wednesdays. And as always, thank you all so much for being here, for showing up for your person, for showing up for you. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.